We are here in the scenic area of Bjordal, which is located between Isevik and Vikebygd. At the moment, we are standing in a plantation where spruce trees have been carefully planted. To protect them as much as possible, we either have to carry out the logs by hand, or we have come up with a practical solution here using pulleys and rope, specifically old line rope. This method works well for our purposes, as long as we do not put too much strain on it. Then this works out quite well. When we hook on the last log down here in this load, we've used this setup. It helps lift it off the ground, and it's much easier to get it up than to carry it through rough and slippery terrain in the rain. It really doesn't take much. It's actually very light. The last log isn't very heavy, but we've sometimes had 2 or even 3 logs on at once. When it works as simply as this, it's much more pleasant than carrying a log each trip. And then you might slip and fall. Now, one important thing is that we might accidentally damage some plants that we really shouldn't, but it also affects the forest floor a little bit. So we think this is a very simple and straightforward way to do it. We found the work to be very easy, at least in our opinion. We've used this kind of pull quite a few times. When there are 2 of us, this method works perfectly. We've been lucky enough to try out this machine ourselves. We have no prior experience with the machine at all. The main thing to pay attention to is the belt that feeds directly into the machine itself, which is an important part of the setup process. At a nice height, place them on the table, long logs. Then we made use of the rollers on the table itself. There is a hydraulic roller here with teeth designed for larger logs, so you don't have to struggle with them. But it's intended that you load it with a machine, possibly a tractor or a loader. The logs we've carried out of the forest more or less, and we're able to carry them with one person. So we can handle even the largest logs and the shortest ones to place up here. And then the conveyor took care of the rest. The way the logs are held in place inside here before you cut them is really convenient with these 2 prongs. 2 guiding pieces, metal so to speak, with teeth on them, so they hold the firewood very well. The saw works very well, and it's extremely handy that we can adjust the splitter itself up and down exactly how we want it, so we can handle both large and small pieces, so we get both logs for burning. If we want kindling, to put it that way, then it's thin and a bit slender, which is easy to place on top of the main pile. That is also controlled hydraulically using a very straightforward and reliable hydraulic system. It's very simple and extremely easy to use, even for someone who may not have much experience. In terms of operating economy, I would say it doesn't use a huge amount of gasoline either, which is quite efficient. I think we get a lot out of a single can of gasoline, making it cost-effective and practical for regular use. The only thing that I find to be a little bit inconvenient is this particular part here, which actually needs to be lifted up in order to fill the oil tank. Then we have to step onto this platform, carefully making our way over the axle, and just to be safe, step in here to get our feet up here. That way we can fill it from the top. It's a bit tricky, honestly, because it's very slippery here. So there really should have been some kind of anti-slip solution. Other than that, I really do not have much negative to say about it. It's really convenient to be able to swing the conveyor and whatever you want, so you don't have to keep moving equipment around. So that's something that's very easy for an ordinary person to do. I've tried driving with this, having it on the back of the car. I found it very convenient, very easy to drive with, no hassle with it swinging around or anything like that. And that's probably because most of the weight is kept down on the axle. And then there's something about the relationship between the wheel and the drawbar, which is just perfect. So all in all, this was a really great machine, and we feel like we're saving our backs and a lot of energy by being able to do both capping and splitting at the same time. So this is something we're very satisfied with compared to how we've done it before.
I'm Johan Nygaard. We're currently at Langeland, just up the hill from Kvaløy in Imsland. And here at this location, I'm working on an old house. I've actually been looking around for some kind of sawmill and have checked out several different suppliers and so on, both to be able to saw my own materials for use, but also because there's quite a bit of restoration work to be done here. There is still quite a bit of work left to do here on the farm, and now timber and material prices have gotten to the point where when you look at the volumes involved, you quickly break even on the investment in a sawmill. I haven't made any precise or detailed calculations, but we've looked a bit at what was purchased in connection with the restoration of the barn and the main house roofs. And then it's quite large sums that have gone into the material costs themselves, and that was even before the huge price jump related to the pandemic and so on. Even though this extension I'm working on now doesn't necessarily save the entire cost, I know there will be more work later that will require a good amount of material, which I can then cut myself. For example, I plan to replace the entire south wall of the barn as well. There it's 4.5 meters high and about 20 meters long, so just that alone will be quite a few cubic meters. And there are some larger logs that should have been taken out here on the farm as well, including some old spruce trees that are probably around 90 to 100 centimeters in diameter. But now, over the past 10 years, both the barn and the main house have been restored. And for that, we've received support from the municipality, the county, and the Directorate for Cultural Heritage for parts of the investments. And with that, a preservation class is imposed, meaning that the heritage authorities will have a say in how things are done. And installing new facilities in old houses, log houses, is not so easy. So what we've agreed on with the county conservator, it's a solution involving an extension where you can place a toilet, washing machine, and so on. So I've actually been working on that project since last spring, when I felled some timber that I then cut up during the autumn last year, and which has been lying ready until now. And leading up to July last year, I spent 2 months hunting here. So during that time, I hand-hewed the framework for a timber frame for the actual extension, which is planned. In April and May, I used a chisel and hammer to carefully cut out all the joints in the timber frame. And then I ordered the timber from the sawmill. I picked that up about 3 weeks ago and started sawing. Since then, I've cut most of the flooring. The boards are 8 inches wide and 1¼ inches thick. With the drying measurements in mind, I expect to end up with flooring that is approximately 1 inch thick. So what I do is lay the floorboards loosely, upside down, and then I size them only once they have all reached the same moisture content. We'll see if that actually happens by autumn, or if it will take until next spring. In addition to that, I've also made rafters, which are carefully sized according to the precise dimensions of the extension. And in the old style, using only wooden pegs and dowels to hold everything in place. Then I've installed a board roof with asphalt felt on top, which is more modern, but it makes it last longer. Next, I'll add battens and stone that we have lying around, which is pretty authentic to the original style. That's how it was done in 1840. So how has it been using the saw? It's actually very straightforward and easy to use, and it's simple to get started with it. Both easy to start, and as you might have noticed, I stop it every time when I need to go back again, which happens quite often. That's when I really see the advantage of having an electric start. And especially when you're working alone, it's best if there aren't any moving parts or complicated mechanisms between the different operations. Of course, I was a bit unlucky with the first blade, which unfortunately didn't go as planned. But I had brought a spare. It's good to have one as a backup, because I forgot to lower one of the side guides. A third of the teeth on the blade broke off. Even so, It was a straightforward operation to change and adjust the new blade. Now it's mostly just a walk around the saw to check that nothing is sticking up at the height where it's going to cut. It's better to be on the safe side with that rather than not. It quickly gets expensive if you have to change the blade too often, especially over time. Now at the start, I've taken down a couple of large ash trees that are about 50 to 60 centimeters at the base, and the most important part of that material, which I carefully selected, I've used for supporting the saw to level it so that you have a straight and solid foundation, making sure nothing moves around. So neither when you lift the bench nor when you're cutting does it feel stable, because in the beginning when it was just standing on the wheels, and you can see that there are 8 support points in total, there actually isn't any support under the middle section. That means the middle of the bench started to sag downward. So now I've cut up a couple of solid ashwood blocks to place underneath for some extra support and stability. Under the middle, so I've leveled the center and adjusted the ends based on that. I think there was about half a centimeter or so that it sagged in the middle, which I couldn't adjust properly. This would then affect all the materials you cut. Also, when you cut boards, they end up narrower in the middle. In the beginning, this wasn't really a problem, since the precise dimensions of the material weren't that important at that stage, because it was mostly for support and framing, and then I've edged and so on afterwards, after I got the saw properly aligned, because then I basically just used 2.4 or 2.5 tons, and then I place the board I want to edge in the middle of these and carefully adjust the height so that it removes the wane where it's present on the material. And I've also, for that matter, taken care to ensure everything is stable before proceeding. For the boards that I'm going to use for cladding, I've top cut the material, which means that it is actually wider at one end than it is at the other. Then I plan to lay the boards alternately with the wide and narrow sides facing out, especially for the exterior cladding. That's essentially the same as what you can see on the old house, where the boards vary in width, ranging from about 12 to 13 inches at the widest, down to 7 to 8 inches at the narrowest. Now I actually stopped by the store itself on my way to Bergen and took a bit of extra time to discuss in detail exactly what I needed. So initially I had looked at the ones that take diameters up to 76, I believe, but there wasn't any standard setup for the wheelbase and so on, which meant you could move the sawmill. So after considering everything, we basically agreed that we should go up to the largest available size, where everything was ready to attach the wheelbase and the drawbar. So I feel that we had a really good, productive and constructive dialogue there, and that we probably ended up with the bigger model, so that with all the adjustments and modifications that would have had to be made to the slightly smaller one, it would likely have cost about the same in the end. And then I also got it fully assembled, picked it up and drove it, which was a very satisfying and rewarding experience overall. Behind my own car from Frakkegir and in here. So the trip there took about an hour, and the trip back took 3 hours, because then I was driving between 30 and 50 kilometers per hour, depending on the road quality. That might also have contributed a bit to the difficulty of leveling it. But there are bigger challenges in transporting it on something else than actually towing it in. So I ended up visiting all the bus bays from Frakkegir to Axland to let the holiday traffic pass by.